Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and this is BP NFL. It's time to look ahead to the props and look way past Thursday Night Football. Ugh. Boy, what a punch fest that was. Lucky for me, in one of my most important leagues, Erickson, I'm playing a team that has Kyren Williams and Cooper Kupp, and let's just say the point total was not what they expected, so I think I'm very much alive. Fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes, but we got a lot of stuff to bet on this week, still a lot of props. I know I'm going to try not to ask Welsh at all about last night because he doesn't want to talk about it. He's not in a good mood, and that's okay. I'm going to let him just, as Homer Simpson said, wallow in his own crapulence. That's what I'm going to let you do. And Andrew Erickson, did you have any money on how many punts were in Thursday Night Football, just out of curiosity?
No, I did not. I had the Deebo Samuel first touchdown, which he dropped, which would have easily cashed and saved everything else that I had bet on that game. The Grendo receiving yards, the last thing I added to the card, was actually the only good bet that came out of Thursday Night Football. But guys, what this means is we're due for a big week regression, for a big Sunday, big Monday. So we're going to bounce back because, again, all the touchdowns are now going to be scored on Sunday because we got none on Thursday night. You know, there's a finite amount of touchdowns that are scored every single week, which means the tutties are coming in bunches on Sunday. So get ready.
That's why
Erickson, it's not Bitcoin. Touchdowns are not Bitcoin.
Yes,
there's not a touchdowny that made only a finite amount of touchdowns.
Erickson's cockeyed optimism is exactly what this world needs, and you need to take a little bit more of it with you this weekend. That's what I say. Take it with you.
I don't need to hear anything from you right now. I don't.
I
wish we had beat buttons on here. Now, that game was trash. I only had wished that. Did they say this is the first game all season that didn't have any touchdowns? Because that was like 220 plus.
It was the lowest scoring
like
game.
222 to 1 or 220 to 1. If you bet no touchdown in that game, that was the only play. What a
who would do that? Especially
pile.
like Puka had been playing in Stafford and all that stuff. It's on. We're on to Cincinnati, folks. So let's move on. And don't forget, when we're talking about props, we're using the prop bet cheat sheet. You can find it over at bettingpros.com/props. Or if you have the app, which you should, download it, sync your sportsbooks for free. Use the prop bet cheat sheet to make all your prop bets. Welsh, let's shake the dust off and let's talk about Bo Nix, the greatest quarterback in the history of the league. He's been able to do some great things this year, all jokes aside. And it's a good matchup for him. They are favorites. So how do you want to approach Bo Nix with a 237.5 passing yards? We going over or under this?
Yeah, we're going to go over. And unlike Devondre Campbell or not going to work here anymore, doesn't matter. Just because I lost doesn't mean I'm going to step off the show and not come back and play. I'm a gamer. He's not. And we're going with Bo Nix. Passing yards over 237 on the over. Yes, sir. He has hit this in 3 straight weeks. Colts have given this up in 5 of the last 6 weeks, coming off of a bye. Bo Nix just in general, the completion percentage and how he's worked, he has been this like low key. I like in their offense to like how Patrick Mahomes, and they'll have these rotational wide receivers keep moving throughout there. They've just like put Bo Nix in a situation where he doesn't have to make these big, crazy plays. He can have just like high leverage, high completion passes, and that works really well for him. And this Colts matchup is pretty fantastic on the ground, in the air. So I love Bo Nix here. Projected numbers are quite a bit over this. I think majority of them are over 250. So coming off of the bye, that little bit of rest and game planning, just love it even more. And as I think I said in the prediction show to Erickson, Bo Nix is the horse king and the Colts will be the glue.
Well, last week, Erickson, you were dogging your boy Bryce Young with the under, and you were right. Now this week, different matchup. They are favorites against the Cowboys. What a fun time that is. This time, you found an over with Bryce Young, so it looks like maybe all your Carolina stuff is on track, baby. It looks like Mr. Panther is on a roll. So how are we going to make money on Bryce Young this week?
Let's get this straight. It's Mr. Cardiac Cat. The Panthers, when they're lowly and they're underdogs, that's when they're Panthers. They're kittens. No, we got the Cardiac Cats coming out to play this week against Dallas at home. So the prop that I like the most, and probably one of my favorites this week, is Bryce Young over his rushing yards at 13.5. He's been over this in 4 straight games. He's at least 17 rushing yards last 4 straight games. You look at Dallas, what do they offer the best on defense is their pass rush. So if they're going to get to Bryce Young, he's going to be running around trying to scramble. And the reason why is Dallas, second in most rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks this season. So you've got the quarterback who's running a lot. The matchup is there. Bryce Young is playing well. So I feel really good about this one. So I'm going to go over on Bryce Young and his rushing yards.
Welsh, for your second prop this week, we're going to say in the same game, go with Ceedee Lamb. Now, his receiving prop this week is around 63.5. He has gone over this number 3 of the last 4 weeks. So can he do it again this week, Welsh?
Yes, and that is the play sticking into that game. I love this one. And I will tell you, this one's actually gone down. This has gone down 2 yards since the early market. He's had 6 or more receptions in 4 of his last 5 games, as you mentioned, including 3 games of 8 or more. He has hit this in 3 of his last 4 games. Highly graded, like right near the top 10 of the wide receiver cornerback matchup metric that they put on PFF, which you like to see. They're also dogs. So if they're behind, they're going to be throwing. And one thing that we know is Cooper Rush is just going to continuously throw the ball to Ceedee Lamb. So the question can be, there was one of those games where it was like an absurd amount of receptions and the yards weren't there, but you're going to be able to do that with the Panthers. And I'm not so sure that, I think because the Panthers are a favorite, a lot of people feel like, oh man, this is going to be a blowout. This is going to be crazy. It's like, no, I think the Cowboys are going to be competitive. Panthers give up the most fantasy yards to running backs. And I know this is a betting show, so that doesn't matter, but the Cowboys are going to be able to establish a running game, which is going to help the passing game. And the passing game evolves around Ceedee Lamb. He is his own planet and everything else rotates around it. So this is a really low total. I really like it for Ceedee Lamb. The receptions, by the way, also are 5.5, but it's juiced to hell. So on a prediction side or a projection side, it's around 6 receptions. So can I average over 11 yards per reception with Ceedee Lamb? Yes, I think I can against the Carolina Panthers. So I think this is it's not my favorite of the week, but I think this one has a really nice floor on the betting side.
The last man standing for the New Orleans Saints is Alvin Kamara, so you figure he's going to get a lot of work, but Jake Haener's playing quarterback, so maybe some 3-and-outs could put that in jeopardy. So when you're looking at New Orleans this week in this offense and you're trying to evaluate Alvin Kamara, what side do you come out on, Undertaker?
The under on Alvin Kamara, under 68.5 rushing yards. Look, he had the smash spot last week. He had 17 carries against the Giants and got 44 yards. 2.6 yards per carry against the freaking New York Giants, who have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. So in a game where the Saints are underdogs against the Commanders coming off a bye week with Jake Haener making the start, I don't know how much rushing yardage Alvin Kamara is going to accumulate in this spot. 68.5 rushing yards. He's hit this number twice since week 4. It's week 15, guys. It's week 15. It's nowhere near week 4. So I think that with Kendre Miller back, he is in the 4 games that Kendre Miller played this year, Alvin Kamara has gone under his rushing prop 3 of those games. Without Derek Carr, he's 3-0 towards the under. So I get why this number is what it is because of what he's done all year long, but all the other factors are at play in this matchup. No Derek Carr, tougher matchup. Kendre Miller's healthy. I don't think he's coming anywhere near close, 68.5 rushing yards. So I think this number is going to continue to dip. I think that it actually opened closer to 77.5 rushing yards, and it's been on a steady decline since that. So hop on it now because I think by the time this closes on Sunday, it's going to be around 65, 64, 63. And again, he was under 50 yards against the Giants last week. So I continue to pound the under.
Erickson, I love this one too, because I'm kind of on Kendre Miller. They want you to press that over. Their offer, at least on DK right now, it's plus money to go over. You don't usually see plus money on rushing yard props, especially for running backs. So that's the play as this is steadily going down, is they're wanting you to take that over. And I am with you on that. I kind of believe that Kendre Miller is going to be a little bit more involved. I almost took this one. I have like 3 running backs that are just in my brain about unders. Is it the over today? For sure. But I tried and I wanted and I've contemplated some unders. So I love this one.
All right, before we get to the next prop bet on the list for the boys, if you're looking for a way to get cash back to load funds on your favorite sportsbook or daily fantasy site, our partner Edge Boost, the financial platform for smart bettors, allows you to do just that. Here's how it works. You go to bettingpros.com/edge and enter your information to sign up for their digital Visa debit card. You link your Edge cashback Visa card to any sportsbook, daily fantasy site, sweep site, horse racing operator, iCasino, or land-based casino digital wallet. And for a limited time, you earn 0.50% cash back on all deposits with no limit. So some advantages of the Edge card: it will allow you to instantly load and withdraw funds to and from your favorite platforms. No more waiting period when trying to transfer funds from one sportsbook to another to catch that line that your eye caught before it's gone. Edge Boost pays you on every transaction for just using the card. Depending on how many times you withdraw and redeposit, you can earn thousands in cash back, and there are no minimums or costs to maintain an account. Edge only makes money when you use the card, and they pay. They also pass through a significant portion of that cash back out to you, and the card is backed with no fee, no minimum, FDIC insured, dedicated betting bank accounts, and also meaning no frozen accounts or transaction reviews, just a safe place for which you to deposit and withdraw your money. So head over to bettingpros.com/edge today and find out a better way to make sure you are betting smarter. Let's get to the next prop here on the list here for these gentlemen. Welsh, I love this one. I'm all in. I was talking up on the Thursday live stream on Fantasy Pros about Adam Thielen. You're here with the 51.5 receiving yards. The guy's been great. The ageless wonder, Adam Thielen. It makes me feel good because as an older guy here, it's good to see when the old farts get out there and play football and do a good job. So I'm in on this over. Why should everybody else be betting it along with us?
Well, by the way, you and I are in the age where you look at like a 34-year-old as an old fart.
That's
like,
right. Well, he's an old fart for football
great.
standards. I mean,
yeah, for football, for Erickson
for
standards too. Yeah.
By the
way,
shout out closer and closer to old fart for football standards. Ever closer. Every year.
Shout out to BettingPros and the meme department for last night using Erickson at one of the team meetup falls at wide receiver against our boy AJ. I don't think everybody knew what it was, but it's one of the greatest memes that we have. I know you're the quarterback there, and our guy AJ's there, and Erickson, you look so tall in that too. You look like you were going to have really good Adam Thielen like separation. Just sometimes the routes, they don't always run.
The floor was slippery.
You know what I mean?
That's one of the worst aesthetically like videos I've ever seen in my entire life of myself. Just like
could have won $100,000
absolutely
on the AFE, but
terrifying.
What a waste.
Just terrible.
It's pretty amazing. But on to Adam Thielen. I love this number. I actually started on the receptions. I know you guys always like yards more than receptions. I'll get down with the receptions, but 4.5 was the receiving reception number, which I think is a smash. But you're getting better odds on the yards. And I told myself as I was going through, because, he smashed this on receptions across the board, but it was like around minus 130. Said, if this is anything under 60, I think you got to smash the yards. And sure enough, 51.5. He has hit this in 3 straight games. He has had 21 targets and 17 receptions over the last 2 games alone. The Cowboys have given up this receiving yard number to a wide receiver against 8 straight weeks. 8 straight weeks. And Adam Thielen is the, no doubt, number 1 receiver for the Carolina Panthers, who are favored. So we are now in the market. These 3, I like those 2 that I've already had. We're now in the market that I really love these next 3. And this is one that I love. It's a low number for a number 1 receiver against a Cowboys team that gives this up a bunch, and a guy that is getting massive, massive amounts of a target share, and the favored. So Adam Thielen, I think yards is an absolute smash right now.
Brian Robinson Jr. over 6.5 receiving yards is where we're going next. So not the rushing, but the receiving. So Andrew, let's talk about this one. I know Austin Eckler is going to be out here again, so he's probably not, I don't know when we're going to get him back, if we're going to get him back. But Robinson's role, especially coming off a bye, expects to be pretty large. And this seems like a pretty easy number to get. So where are you going here?
Yeah, I just think it's really, really low for a player that, you're not looking at Brian Robinson as this player that's known for his receiving props per se, but he's gone over this number in 3 of his last 4. When I first got it, was at 5.5 receiving yards. He's gone over that in 4 straight games. So he's had at least 6 receiving yards in 4 straight games. So you're feeling pretty good if you're taking the over at 6.5. And part of the reason why I was drawn to this is the projections just have him flying way over this number. It's just way too low. And I don't think it's accounting for the fact that, like you said, Austin Eckler's not part of this offense. Like, he's on injured reserve. He's not coming back. So even if Jerry McNichols is playing in that Eckler role, I still think Robinson is good for at least 1 or 2 screen passes behind the line of scrimmage. And what do we know about the Saints? They cannot tackle. Like, they're one of the worst tackling teams in the. They're still trying to tackle Sean Tucker from week 5 or whatever that monster game. So Brian Robinson, again, he can get this on the first drive. He can get this on the first play if they decide to dial up a screen pass for him, which they do. Brian Robinson, even not coming out of Alabama, not really known as a receiver, but for some reason he's always been kind of like overly efficient in the receiving game. So I really I trust in the projections here. It's not just on BP. NFL Pro has really good projections as well, and those have him flying over this number. So without Eckler, again, he's been over 6 receiving yards in both games without Eckler played this season. I think that he gets this one done pretty easily.
I want to throw out that I almost put this on my card, and I did bet it. So I talked about like, I almost did the under. This is one that I've got my own sheet, and these are the bets I'm going to do, and here's the ones I put on the show. I bet this one. I'm with you. I also got 5.5, which seems like an absolute smash. So this is a definite cosign here as one that is already on the BettingPros app under my name.
Yeah, I also put it together with him scoring an anytime touchdown, which is -30 on the juice, pretty heavy this week, which feels, probably right. If you put that together with this number here, the 6.5, you get +170. That's a pretty good spot to live in too. You get that into plus money. That seems like a lock there for me. Let's get to Tua Tagovailoa next. I got a stat for you, Welsh. Tua's last 4 games, 75% completion percentage, 1,300 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, no picks, and a passer rating of 118.5. So he's taking on the Texans this week. How do you want to approach Tua Tagovailoa considering this run he's been on?
We are going to take those touchdowns on all those stats over those 4 games, add one more stat. He has had 2 touchdowns or more in those 4 straight games. He has thrown. So we are going over 1.5 on the passing touchdowns. The Texans, they have given up 2 or more touchdowns in 4 of 5 games. You can't run against the Texans. The Dolphins can move. They're definitely not that early season's Dolphins where every other play is a run and we're like, what the hell is going on? No, they're getting the ball in the air more. Tyreek Hill. I'll tell you, I have a Tyreek Hill bet, but the line moved a little too much. I took him off of the show. I was going to put the receiving yards on this show, but I took it early and it's moved up 3 or 4 yards already. And this is just a really great spot. So Tua is hitting this from the passing department. You can pass against the Texans while not running. So I think that is what is going to happen. I think there are multiple things that align in a great way where Tua is throwing touchdowns. The Texans are giving them up. Jalen Waddle is finally reconnecting. So give me 1.5 over passing touchdowns for Tua this week.
I like this one. I like this one a lot too, Welsh, because I think too, when you look at the Texans, they give up the highest percentage of passing touchdowns in the NFL. So whenever Miami does ultimately score, it's probably going to be through the air, even if it's a pass to HN or Waddle or Tyreek Hill. So this is a really good one.
Or Jono in overtime to screw up your, your playoff run, your fantasy playoff run.
No bitterness, none whatsoever. Big marquee game between the Bills and the Lions. And usually when you're talking about running backs on the Lions catching the football, we're talking about Jahmyr Gibbs. But instead, we're going to talk about David Montgomery. Here's a fun fact. 7 of the last 8 weeks, he's gone over this number for receiving yards. Now, I didn't quite realize that. I know you got it at 15.5. I see it on BettingPros at 16. So we're going over this. This is kind of sneaky because I think everyone's perception of the Lions is, Monty just kind of runs the football and runs in, those touchdowns. But he's done a lot more than that. And clearly the stats bear that out.
Yeah, he's been kind of under the radar as the receiving back in this backfield. And shout out to the BettingPros prop bet cheat sheet. Again, I'm looking through each of the matchups, looking for the flame emojis, right? Like who's on a streak? Like who can I back? And to see David Montgomery receiving yards and see this little flame, like it's burning bright though, because like you said, I mean, he's been hitting this consistently week in and week out, over 15.5 receiving yards in 6 straight games. In 10 of his 13 games played this season, that's almost 80% of the time he's hitting this number. So him by himself in a neutral matchup is going over this number in most of his games that he's played. And then you factor in Buffalo's defense, one of the worst defense in terms of defending running backs in the passing game. Top 3, most yards, most catches, and targets to running backs this season in the passing game. So in a script where, hey, you could actually see Detroit having to throw a little bit more, love Dave Montgomery here going over his receiving yards prop, because this is a game script where you're actually expecting Jared Goff to probably drop back a little bit more than usual, where he throws 20 times and you're just kind of hoping Montgomery rips off, breaks a couple tackles. So this one, definitely another one of my favorites on the card this week.
All right, Welsh, let's go to the Battle of Pennsylvania for the last one we're going to start with here, and then we'll get to the touchdown calls. So Russell Wilson, not passing stuff this week, but rushing is where you're going. So let's talk about the why.
Yeah, I ended up really loving this one, and I don't bet a whole lot of Russ props or anything like that, but just as I kept digging in, 7.5 rushing yards for Russ this week. And I was like, okay, this is interesting because it's a tough matchup against Philly, but what's the one thing that's in our face? no George Pickens. There's no chance he's going to play. And they cannot get the ball deep. And they want to. Russ wants to. And I think without having Pickens, that's going to be a situation that's going to end up having Russ take the ball down more. Now, 7.5 rushing yards. He has hit this in 2 of his last 3 games, while never this season having less than 3 rushes per game. So you've got a floor of 3 rushes per game. You've also now got a deep game that is taken away from him. Let's throw the Eagles into this. The Eagles have given up this rushing yard number to quarterbacks they've played against every single week of the season, starting from week 4 on. It doesn't matter the quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is in there. Hit it. Joe Burrow's in there. Hit it. Rushing quarterbacks. They hit it. Quarterbacks on average against the Eagles are averaging 4 carries, 18 yards rushing. I love this marker because Russ is getting at least 3 carries. The deep game is gone. The pressure in, I think, is going to move him up the field more, and the Eagles are giving this up. And like I said, every single game they've given up this rushing yard total to a quarterback since week 4. It ends up weirdly being one of my favorite bets this week.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting one. I mentioned to Erickson that I feel like at some point Fields is going to get some work in this game, because when you're down a weapon like Pickens, you want to try to offset things a little bit. I've been searching everywhere. I can't get any Justin Fields props. I'm even looking for like an anytime touchdown for him right now, and it's hard to find, which is a shame. But if you get it, folks, if it pops up in the next 24 hours, I'd be all over it. Go ahead, Erickson.
Oh, I didn't have anything to add.
Oh, I think. No. He didn't want. You don't want to say how much you love it.
Oh no! What I was gonna say is like I can't wait to see like when Russ he decides to he has his eyes glow, right, and then he's like, I'm gonna run, and in my mind I'm like, let Ross cook, let's go.
Yeah, well, I want him to run. I mean, by the way, like, because I love this one, like last week I went 4-1. Just want to point that out. I'm very jaded right now because of the Niners and losing my off from last night. But I was great last week on this show. But like one of my favorites was Bijan, and that was the only one that didn't hit. This will probably be the one because the logic is there. I do want to point out to you, DraftKings has Justin Fields anytime touchdown at plus 700. So
so DK's got it. Okay, I was looking on FanDuel and I couldn't find it there, and I couldn't find it on the app yet. So that's good. That's very good news. All right, so speaking of good process, I know you've been talking all week since Monday. You've been talking about Jalen Hurts in this same game. Erickson, you've got some feelings about this one too. He had been very turnover prone last year. This year it's been obviously a more conservative offense, much to the chagrin of AJ Brown. But that might change a little bit this week, and if it does, there's more room for error, and it looks like Andrew Erickson wants to take advantage of that.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is going to throw an interception this week. Like, it's going to happen because we're talking about the Steelers. We love the Steelers plus 5.5. So how do they cover this game? Oh, well, they get an interception of Jalen Hurts. Like, it's pretty intuitive to think, okay, well, they get a pick. They're going to cover the 5.5 point spread. This game is going to go under the total because it's going to be a gritty, going to go through the mud. And the thing with Hurts, right? The narrative all week has been AJ Brown this, AJ Brown's got to get his targets, got to take the overs on AJ Brown. But I'm kind of looking at it from like a different perspective where, okay, now Jalen Hurts is going to have to throw into more tight windows because they got to get AJ Brown 10 targets, or else he's going to be upset and he's going to go on Twitter again and complain. So I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Instead of taking overs on AJ Brown, look at Jalen Hurts. Well, boy, you're going to get intercepted this time because start the year, he was throwing picks left and right because he was forcing more throws. The last time he threw an interception was against Dallas, one of the tougher pass rushes they have faced this season. Pittsburgh's defense this year, 3rd in interceptions, 1st in turnover margin. They have an interception in 10 of 13 games played, including 8 of their last 9 games. So he's way overdue to throw a pick. And if they're going to be dialing up more pass attempts, well, I rest my case. He's getting intercepted this week.
There you go. So INTs are coming for Jalen Hurts, and hopefully some touchdowns as well. And the touchdown score report at bettingpros.com/touchdown is the way to get an edge on your touchdown bets. Our touchdown score report compares anytime touchdown stats to prop bet odds and projections to help identify the best anytime touchdown bets you're going to find anywhere. So head over right now to bettingpros.com/touchdown for the latest touchdown prop analysis today. I've got my touchdowns ready to rock. Let's go. Going Jerry Jeudy, one of the best wide receivers in the league, when Jameis Winston is out there. So I know the weather might be tricky in that game. I still think we're going to get Jerry Jeudy to find the end zone plus 165. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I think Jalen Hurts might throw a pick, but I think at some point he's also going to throw a touchdown to A.J. Brown plus 145. again, when you chirp, typically you get the football, and I expect that to happen this weekend. Good 4 o'clock game. So you got that game, you got the Bills-Detroit game, so really fun stuff in that late window. Erickson, let's go to you for your touchdowns this week. I know you've got one that is a double dip as well that you're high on.
Yeah, let's call it the Trey McDouble, right? Trey McBride's going to score 2 tutties this week against the New England Patriots. Look, they're the worst defense in terms of EPA allowed per play to players and pass catchers that are aligned tight. And we all know the shtick with Trey McBride this year. Can't catch touchdown. He sees all these red zone targets, is on pace to have the most receiving yards targets without a receiving touchdown, yada, yada, yada. Okay, this is where regression comes to head, right? This is where you have an explosion game in an exposable matchup. We know that we're going to see Christian Gonzalez covering Marvin Harrison Jr. Patriots defense is overall very bad, and I don't think they have anyone that can really stop Trey McBride, who has been drowning in targets over the last couple weeks. So I love McBride here, and it's funny. I mentioned this on the FP show earlier this week, but there's actually a special on DraftKings because they're also aware of the Trey McBride lack of touchdowns. At plus 700, you can bet McBride to have 9 receptions and not score a touchdown, and it's called Trey McBride's Made, basically. So
I like that.
So it's an interesting hedge if you want to go heavy on some of these multi-touchdown approaches with McBride. Again, he's probably going to have a ton of catches and yards in this game too. But that's just an interesting thing that I was looking at that I thought was kind of funny because the books are aware that McBride is allergic to the end zone. So that's my Trey McBride scoring this week.
Okay. And you've also got one for, was it Stone Cold Steve Austin to get in the end zone this week? Who is it you got there?
Hell yeah.
Bet smarter, not harder, guys. Stone Smart.
Oh, there it is.
Stone. I'm doing it for all the bits. The Trey McDouble.
All the bits.
Bet smarter, today. Not harder. Stone Smart.
I'm going to get a McDouble with cheese. So there we go.
Stone Smart. Tight end, for those aren't aware, tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think, Joe, it's been a long season. I think I finally found my Donald Parham that I've been looking for as a replacement
all this time.
And I think I may have found, again, a former wide receiver convert Chargers tight end. That is Stone Smart here. So I expect him to get the start this week with Will Dissly out. Last week in just the second half, he had 3 targets for 54 yards, 24-yard grab. And what I've noticed with Justin Herbert this year is it doesn't matter who the tight end has been. Like, he has hyper-targeted that position. And when you look at the matchup, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are one of the worst defenses in the NFL against guarding tight ends. So if they're going to be scoring, is it going to be Gus Bus up the middle against a stack box? I don't think so. I think it's going to be Stone Smart finding the end zone. So those are my tight end touchdowns of the call this week. I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun.
There you go. One smart fellow. He felt smart. All right, Welsh, your turn. Let's blow this up here with some touchdown calls.
Man, Erickson loves those tight ends.
If
we could have a percentage of how many times you bet tight end touchdowns, 50%, I think, on the year. But all right, my touchdown calls this week. Number 1, we are going with a tight end. Would you look at that? I am going with a tight end. I'm going with Brock Bowers. It's interesting when you look at the Falcons. The Falcons are getting demolished from wide receivers. They don't really rank if you sort by tight end. They don't really rank like, they're giving up a ton of fantasy points or touchdowns. As far as wide receivers go, they're giving up the most receiving touchdowns in the NFL to wide receivers right now. And on the last month, they're also giving up the most touchdowns. Well, guess what? Brock Bowers is not just a tight end. Brock Bowers is everything. He's the wide receiver, the tight end, the number 1, the be-all, end-all for the Raiders. This is a great spot to a secondary when they move Bowers out. I mean, Michael Mayer, they've ended up putting in as a tight end spot who's played really well. Brock Bowers is going to score. It's plus 160 this week. It's a great matchup. My other touchdown call, going with a quarterback, going with an anytime touchdown, Lamar Jackson. That one is sitting around plus 180, which I really like. Over on Lamar Jackson, the Giants have given up the 7th most rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks so far this year. It is a ridiculous matchup across the board. We're going to be hyper-focused on Derrick Henry. Lamar's going to put one in at plus 180. Also want to point out, you had plus 320 on Stone Smart, plus 340 on DK for Stone Smart anytime touchdown. So make sure to go to BettingPros, check out the tab of each player where you can analyze the bets and you can see the best betting market across the land if you like to shop around to the best odds for Stone Smart, Lamar Jackson, Brock Bowers, or even multi-touchdowns for Trey McBride.
Fun fact, guys. I know you like fun facts. So there's 2 games on the slate where there's anytime touchdown scores that are all in the plus money. Do you want to guess what those 2 games might be? So no minus. So there's no like expectations. I feel like Vegas is silently telling us maybe you should take the unders in these games. I'm just saying, I think it's kind of interesting. You rarely see that like one guy is not in the minus or at least even money. They're all in the plus money. You want to take a guess?
You said they're in the late window, you said?
Or let's see.
He just said there's 2 games.
2 games on the slate on Sunday. 2 games.
I am going to say, ooh, this is really
just
tough.
think it's fun. This is just fun at the end of the show.
Jets Jaguars. That's got to be
Jets Jaguars is one of them. Yes, Jets
Broncos
Jaguars.
Chargers
Plus 130. Devontae Adams is the best one you get. No, it's not the Broncos right now. Anyway, as of recording this,
Broncos.
It's not. Can't be Steelers Eagles.
No, not Steelers Eagles either.
I think so.
No.
Patriots Cardinals. No, Connor's gonna be.
No, it's actually the Browns and Kansas City Chiefs. Everybody's in the plus money on that one too.
Interesting.
So the best
Pacheco
one is
being at plus
Pacheco
money
plus
is,
120.
I think, yeah, that's really close.
That's the lowest of the. I just thought that was really odd. Typically, there's always one guy, and if you get a game like that, okay, maybe you get one game like that where everyone's a plus, but not 2. Honestly, it's typically an odd thing.
Yeah,
so
that seems a little sus.
Fishy.
Very sus. Very sus. It's
Travis
Kelce's
going to score this week then, eventually.
I guess, probably.
He has to score eventually.
I need DeAndre Hopkins to go absolutely ballistic. Shout out to Derek Brown, who has me laddering DeAndre Hopkins this week.
Wow, I mean, weather could be an issue in that one, so just pay attention to all that.
Wish I had looked before I bet it.
Well, you gotta set your line alerts over on the BettingPros app, and again, download that bad boy. Subscribe to the BettingPros podcast wherever you get your pods, and of course, our YouTube channel as well. That's what you do, and drop your comments below. What are your favorite prop bets for Week 15? That'll do it for us. Those are ours, but the story of the game goes on. For the Welsh and the Undertaker, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Peace.